Hello, I'm Phil and welcome to the Who's He Podcast YouTube channel. A few episodes ago, I announced that I would be talking about films, TV and possibly music that I enjoy or perhaps don't enjoy. Now, this means that I could cover something that isn't necessarily current or relevant, and that is certainly true of today's episode. Yes, today I'm going to talk about 1968's Where Eagles Dare, starring Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood. Now, straight off the bat, I adore this film. It's basically a good old-fashioned boys' own adventure that's got a cracking script, cracking performances, and plenty of shootouts and explosions to keep action aficionados happy. It's my comfort blanket movie, a movie that feels like a pair of old slippers you put on and go, ah. But if you've never seen this movie before, the film is an adaptation of Alistair MacLean's book of the same name, which was released in 1967. While I've not actually read the book, I'm aware there are some changes made for the movie, which is par for the course when it comes to translating a book into a film. However, the synopsis for the movie is this. A crack team of Allied soldiers stages a daring rescue during World War II. A US general is being held captive in an imposing castle fort high in the Bavarian Alps. The audacious plan caused Lieutenant Schaefer, Clint Eastwood, Major Smith, Richard Burton, and other operatives to parachute down wearing Nazi disguises. They'll penetrate the mountain outposts while undercover operatives assist them from within. But the mission changes when they discover that there's a traitor in their midst. But is it a war film? Is it an action adventure? Is it a spy film? Well, to be perfectly honest, it's all of the above. I think I can honestly state that I've never seen another movie quite like Where Eagles Dare. War films of that era were usually quite black and white in their storytelling. If you were German, you were the bad guys. If you were American or British, you were the good guys. Simple. But Where Eagles Dare blurs those lines into grey. Are the American British characters who they claim to be? And are they the good guys? And this is why I love this movie. It kept you guessing up until the reveal in the final third of the film. But I'm kind of skipping ahead here. Where Eagles Dare always had a mythical status with me. My dad used to say this was the best war film he'd seen, and having grown up watching war films which were practically on British TV every weekend in the 1970s, I couldn't wait to see it. Where Eagles Dare didn't appear on British television until the 26th of December 1979 and was billed as one of the big movies of the festive season. I can clearly remember on that particular Boxing Day, my family and I were at my grandparents' for the day, and the TV was, rarely on. However, later in the evening, the TV was switched on to watch Dave Allen at Large, and there was the final scene of Where Eagles Dare. At this point, my dad piped up, "There they are." Now, I have no idea why he said that, but all the adults in the room remained completely silent as the final scene played out and the credits rolled. Now, was their silence down to my father greeting Clint Eastwood, Richard Burton, Mary Ure and Ingrid Pitt as if they were old friends? Or was it because they all thought, damn, we've just missed Where Eagles Dare? I will never ever know. But this is when my adoration of the film began. If all the adults in the room remained silent in what I saw as reverence, this must be a good movie. However, it was many years later when I did actually see it in its entirety, and I was not disappointed. I became an even bigger fan of Clint Eastwood, who impressed my young self by wielding two MP40 machine pistols and shooting Nazis. Richard Burton, who was one of our greatest actors, was someone that I only knew at the time through his legendary drinking exploits. But who else could pull off the famous line, "Broadsword calling Danny boy"? Eastwood and Burton are ably supported by Mary Ure as Mary Ellison, John Smith's love interest and co-conspirator, and a multitude of British character actors such as Donald Houston, Michael Haldon, and the aforementioned Hammer actress Ingrid Pitt. Now, while I've so far touched on the action aspects of this film, there is also an espionage aspect to this film which apparently confused audiences in 1968. Yes, one scene in particular where Richard Burton's character, Major John Smith, reveals his true mission and his true nature. Not only bamboozles the rest of the characters, but it seems the audience of 1968 as well. At one point, Anton Diffrin's character shouts, "This is preposterous!" which just about sums it up for some. But, despite audiences scratching their heads at certain times, it is a rip-roaring, rollicking adventure. There was a fantastic fight scene on a cable car that I always felt was quite brutal for its day, and not good for those with a fear of heights. There are plenty of things blowing up, Nazis get killed, and guns that never seem to run out of ammunition. And with the action scenes, everyone gets their turn, to shoot Nazis. While most people would expect Clint Eastwood to be the action hero, Richard Burton, who is most widely known as being a serious actor, shares the action duties with his co-star. Also, and quite refreshingly so, Mary Ure and Ingrid Plitt are not damsels in distress and also get stuck into the action, something that most films of the period did not have or just not allow women to do. I also have to mention the bombastic score composed by Ron Goodwin. Goodwin was a noted film composer and also scored other memorable war movies of the period such as 633 Squadron and the Battle of Britain. But the score for Eagles is probably my favourite, as it captures the whole essence of the film: exciting, over the top and fun. And if you're a Doctor Who fan like me, I always like to spot actors in films that also appeared in my favourite TV show. And if you're like me, you won't be disappointed. In fact, you'll be pleasantly or mildly surprised at the amount of actors in this film who also appeared in Doctor Who. Actually, there are some actors in this film who I completely forgotten had appeared in Doctor Who, such as William Squire, who would later appear in the Doctor Who serial, The Armageddon Factor. All I need to do is to turn Spot the Doctor Who actor into a drinking game, and I will be in a permanent drunken stupor. But to round things off, Where Eagles Dare is by no means a realistic war movie. In fact, at times, it's ridiculous. It's also a movie that now seems to be on television an awful lot in the UK, but it's a lot of fun and I never ever tire of watching it. It's one of those films where I switch over channels to see it's about halfway through, and I have to watch it regardless. I don't care how many times I've seen it. There are only a handful of films that I can rewatch ad infinitum, some of which I will cover on this video channel at some point, and Where Eagles Dare is certainly one of them. So if I've convinced you to go and watch this film, and if you enjoy it, perhaps when you watch it for a second, third or maybe even a fourth time, you might find yourself saying, there they are.